X.
There are no rules but one. Drink Jägermeister at minus 18 degrees Celsius.
Peter Cullen, one of the all-time greats, talked about the inspiration behind his voices, like legendary Optimus Prime voice, and how he came up with Predator sound, and Optimus voice in particular was inspired by his brother. And have you yourself have maybe some life event impacted roles you voiced? Imagine you're driving to the studio, you have one voice in your head, you're exercising on your way there, but just out of nowhere, somewhere, something new comes, and you come with something completely different in the final portrayal.
That happened in Young Justice. There's a character that I play called Forager. Forager is like a bug character. And you are now part of Forager's hive. Like, he has this very bug-like voice. And I was in the car listening to like a documentary audio segment on cicadas, which are these, bugs that we have in the trees here. I don't know if they have them in other regions of the world, but cicadas at night in a certain season, you can hear just this cacophony, this wall of bug sound. And in the documentary, they were actually separating the sounds that the bugs make. And they played each one of them in the documentary. They said, okay, this wall of bug noise is actually made of these three separate sounds. There's this, and there's this, and those three sounds, all the different bugs are making them at different times. And so it sounds like this wall of noise. And when I heard those separate noises, and I thought, well, Forager is a bug from another planet where it, basically the inhabitants of that planet, indigenous species, were bugs. Maybe they speak universal bug. So when Forager in the show, if you watch Young Justice, his Forager's in a few seasons, more recent ones, you will hear him make these clicking noises. And it was just me saying, when he speaks English, sometimes he ends up speaking a little bug at the end of a sentence, like we have accents, your English is accented and whatever. And it's like, so he would say, Forager is Forager. And he'd make these noises. And so I would just practice taking those sounds and putting them in order and bringing that to the performance.
That's cool.
So that you feel like he's a bug from another planet.
Yeah, Forager just got a lot more interesting to me than Kid Flash, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you played a lot of characters in Young Justice in particular, like Forager, like Kid Flash. Was it tough to juggle between all those roles?
Not really. I mean, only because I never played Forager and Kid Flash on the same season. But Forager has a human voice. So Forager, when they put the glamour charm around his neck, he becomes a human. He no longer looks like a bug. And it hides his extra arms. And I talked to Greg and Brandon about that moment because the glamour charm changes how other people perceive that character in the world. And I said, wouldn't it make sense that Forager's voice was altered? Because when Artemis put on the glamour charm, they altered Artemis's voice a little bit, made it a little deeper, a little raspier. And I said, well, it would make sense for Forager's human voice to sound similar to his bug voice in the underlying characteristics. So Forager is an outsider. His voice is a little different. He speaks a little differently. So if you were to translate that into what a young human boy would sound like,
and you get this voice where it's like, hi, I'm Fred Bug with 2 Gs. And
like his vocal cords don't quite come all the way together, it would be as if he would have to be awkward. In high school, he would sound different than the other kids. Kids might make fun of him. And these are all the things that happened to Forager on his home planet, right? He was an outsider even on his home planet. So I just kind of took Forager's characteristics and moved them from bug to human when I played Fred Bug.
Hi, I'm Fred Bug with 2 Gs.
And, I just kind of came up with his human voice.
You made him an MVP of Young Justice.
Yeah, with the same underlying characteristics, but he's a human instead of a bug. So, yeah. And I had to bounce back and forth between the two,
So you would get Forager. You are now part of Forager's hive. And then I'd have to be Fred Bug with 2 Gs after he put the glamour charm on in the same scene.
Oh yeah, that's
right. And you bounce. I did have to bounce between them. And look, it's a level of talent and it's a level of experience and vocal flexibility, and you practice it a little bit so you have the voice, and then you just off to the races.
We stay genuine, uncensored and unscripted, and we always will, as we have to order our usual. Share us and subscribe us, and stay tuned until the next Wednesday. Ikuzo!